It's a beautiful Saturday morning. Got the shop doors open, so we're gonna hopefully make some progress today. I don't know what I showed you guys last time. I think you guys saw that the motor plates were in. Motor set in there where it needs to be. Motor plates still need trimmed a tiny bit, but that'll come out with the motor. I'm gonna try and get the transmission mounted today. I'm gonna do these 4-bolt flanges like I talked about real quick. That way the K-member's in there. I also pulled it off so I could plate this little piece right here, where this and this is, because I'm going to take the inner frame rails and I'm going to make a piece that bends and lands on that to tie the K-member together. So it'll also have those 4-bolt flanges. That way, kind of the whole chassis is tied together, and we can make it a little stiffer. So I think that's about it for today. I got shop ghosts over there, door open, it's breezy in here. So I'm going to probably work on the K-member first, get that back up in there, and I'll probably do those little frame extension deals just to get that finished up. I want to get the cage tied back to the K-member and braced. We did get a couple new parts this week, actually yesterday. So I got some front struts from AFCO. These are big guns. I actually ordered on Thursday at 8:23, I think it was, and we got these at 5 o'clock yesterday. So shout out to Eric Saffel at AFCO. He had these to me in record time. With all the craziness going on right now with parts and stuff like that, that is wild that they can get it there that fast. So huge shout out to him. That's huge help because now I can get the front suspension bolted together. I actually bought most of the front suspension stuff off Shane Cernick. So I bought his wheels and tires, spindles, lower control arms. I think that's about it. And I had to buy the K-member. So should have everything to bolt the front suspension together this weekend. So that'll be nice to get it on the ground. I've probably told you guys this before. We don't have a huge budget for this car, so I just bought the front struts for now so we could get the strut cups mounted. So that way struts sit where we want them. The reason, I know Mark talked about last video, the reason we didn't do adjustable camber plates is because you run out of caster adjustment. They can only rotate in this little section here. I guess you could, notch it out, move it, slide it, but we usually just opt for the strut cups. So here's the actual cup with the clip in there and then the bearing. So that way it is a fixed upper spindle mount, but you can adjust it with a lower control arm. So that's what we're going to do. That's the same thing we did on Mike's car. So it just makes the caster set where we want it. So that's what we're going to do. But other than that, I got a lot to do now. So I'm kind of excited about that. We're getting to the point where we're going to need more and more parts, hard parts. So that's kind of why I'm trying to buy stuff that may not be available in the next couple months because of all the COVID backlog, whatever is going on. We actually just ordered tires like 2 weeks ago for an event in September. So obviously we don't have the car done, but we had to order tires because Mickey Thompson was saying that it was going to be middle to end of June before we even got tires. So I doubt we'll have the car running by then, but I wanted to get those on order so we could have them. And they're not any normal size that most people run. It's a 26.85, which is the tire required for the Rowdy Radial class at Rocky Mountain Race Week. So kind of buying parts that I don't need yet to make sure they're here on time. So it kind of sucks because I'm not really buying in any logical order. I'm just, you know, if something has a huge backlog, I'm trying to pick it up. But luckily, all the big parts we have left to buy aren't backlogged. Like all the rear end housing stuff, like the axles, brakes, third member, that stuff is pretty well in stock. So most of the companies I have left to buy stuff for are in stock. I guess a little update on the parts we're using. I know I kind of talked about it in the last video. I had a whole little video of that, what we're going to be using. We're probably going to be selling the BTE torque converter. It was spec'd for my Camaro, my red Camaro that I showed you guys in the first video, because that was going to be probably a 3,100 pound car. They're not light, and it just has an 850 cage on plate, so we could run it, but I wanted a chassis. I wanted a safe chassis that we wouldn't have to keep upgrading. We could keep just put motor trans in it and go faster without having to backtrack. So that's why we built this car, because it will be a 25.2 chassis, which will be plenty for anything we ever have for it. So talked with Pete at Hughes Performance. He was a huge help. So I believe we're going to be picking up one of their bolt together torque converters. Not something I want to spend that much money on, but we want to do all kinds of different types of races. We're basically going to race wherever we fit in. So, you know, whether it be like no prep or, you know, a radial test night at Gateway or whatever, I wanted to be able to swap setups around and go run anything. So I think the converter would be a limitation if we wanted to do that. So the bolt together is kind of a end all converter. We don't have to, you know, send it in, you know, back and forth. And the pricing on it is, I mean, you send a converter in 2 or 3 times, it pays for itself. So, oh, another thing, to run like Rocky Mountain Race Week, it requires a lot of driving, and it requires towing a trailer. So I talked with Hughes, and they said, or Pete said that so there's different types of converters for, I'm trying to make this not all technical and whatnot. Different types of converters for different types of applications, and street driving requires you know, a different converter. So you don't want to build up a ton of heat in the converter. It'll burn it up. So that's the stator that's going to be in it for Rocky Mountain Race Week will be a completely different stator than what we use for like normal track use. So that's kind of why we're opting for a Hughes bolt together, because that BT, while it might work for this, the weight is totally off. I mean, this car is going to be, I'm hoping for like 2,400 pounds with me in it. So that was spec for a 3,200 pound car. So the power levels might be the same, but the weight and chassis is totally different. So that's probably what we'll end up doing. And he gave out a ton of useful info for us. So I like to support those type of people that, you know, they have that info and they have that knowledge. It's kind of why we went with AFCO also. Eric is a huge help. I mean, you know, he doesn't have to talk to us. We're a nobody. There's a lot more important customers, but when someone takes the time to, you know, help you out, and I mean, he sent long messages with a lot of info in it. So huge shout out to them and Eric, because they're just sources of info, and you know, I'm not afraid to give them a call on, you know, Monday and say, hey, car's doing this, what should we do? So that's the type of people I like to support. So yeah, that's it's kind of the last week update on the shop car. So I'm gonna get started on this so I don't waste any more time. and hopefully get a lot done this weekend. It's pretty nice out, so I'm excited. It feels like a cave in here sometimes, so having the doors open it's nice. So I'm gonna get to it. All right, so I guess this could be your Tech Tip Saturday portion of today's progress, but I thought I'd show you these 4-bolt flanges and what we do to get them straight. We see them not straight very, very often. So this is kind of what we do. Your results, I guess, may vary. But so I've intentionally left this one kind of wonky. I think side to side it's about good, but so what we do is so I've already split this. Obviously the K-member was just out. I got it bolted back up. So with this, basically I made a mark on, I put one flange on here, made a mark of where I want this one to sit, and I know that it's, you know, the tube is inside this. It's not sticking into both of them, where if I go to take it apart, there's a tube sticking out. So I know that this little mark right there is where I want the flange to sit. I want this flange to sit, and then this one to be, you know, on the other tube. So what we do, we just have a digital protractor, and I know the car's level. This one might be a little tough because you can hear it rattling. It's this is higher than these. On the 1 5/8", these are higher, so you can just set it on there. So this might be a little tough, but so basically what I'm gonna do, try to do this one-handed here, and then I'm just gonna tap it around. Until it reads. Obviously it's gonna be a little wonky because we gotta like about 30 thousandths, or you know, 0.3. I guess it wouldn't be thousandths. You know, 0.3 of a degree off on this wobble here. So I'm just gonna keep tapping it around. So now it's a positive. I'm gonna keep making sure that it's on that line, and then straight also. So these are pretty tight on here, so I don't really have to worry about them like rocking. I probably need to loosen them up a tad actually. So this one's 0.25, about 1/4 of a degree to 0.10. So I'm just like one more tap. It's probably there. Let's see here. This is, yeah, we got 1/4 of a degree to perfectly level. So I'm gonna do one more little tap. That way this is perfectly level. It'll bother the hell out of me if it's not. So we got about 1/10 of a degree to negative 1/4 of a degree. So it's about level, and it looks pretty straight. Like I said, this one's pretty tight on this tube, so I don't really have to worry about it walking around. But I'll look from the top, you know, make sure it looks level. Sometimes I'll take like a reference point. I know this motor plate is pretty straight in the car, so I'll eyeball down there, you know, see if it's straight. So that one looks pretty straight, so it's probably ready to tack on. I'm gonna get that one bolted up and get the same way. Alright, so back out here. It's another pretty nice day. It's a Sunday morning. Had to install a dishwasher in the house yesterday, so kind of didn't get as much done as I had hoped. And then last night we actually went to Bonne Terre Drag Strip, which is in Bonne Terre, Missouri. We sponsor them as a track, and then every month they have a small tire, big tire, kind of just a small local deal, so we kick in a little bit of money to that to help the payout. So if you guys are ever in St. Louis, go check out Bonterre Drag Strip. Great track. Every year they make new improvements to the track. They used to have regular guardrail style walls. Now they have full concrete walls. They added a sand trap at the end. They lengthened the track. So that's been in the past like 3-4 years. So it's a lot for a small track, but it's a great place to hang out. I don't mind Gateway. Just seems like there's a lot of issues that go along with it, and there's a ton of they don't cater as much to the racer. Jared at Bonterre is great. He'll take care of anyone and puts on a great show. So we always try to help them out and, you know, support your local tracks as much as you can. So that's where we were at last night. So I'm back out here Sunday morning. I'm gonna get some done today. I'll be out here most of the day. So this morning, I know I showed you guys these. So I got these welded in. So these are the 4-bolt flanges that are connected to the K-member. They're not fully welded in, but they are, you know, mostly in there. So I was waiting for them to cool off, because taking those bolts out with wrenches and, you know, 500-degree metal is not real fun. So I was letting those cool off. So I was working on these back support bars. So those are going to tie in the lower frame rail on the car to the K-member. So all of this will be tied together. Nothing will be, you know, there won't be much flex. So that's what they look like from inside. This is gonna go. I'm gonna trim most of this out because the glide is gonna be pretty far up here just because of where the motor's sitting. So as far as everything else goes, that's about what I'm gonna work on today. I'm gonna try to get the transmission mounted too. So actually I'll probably be able to get transmission mounted. There's no reason I shouldn't. So I'm gonna get the other one done, and then work on the transmission. So that's kind of the goal in the next hour or so. These turn downs right here, kind of a pain because it's a weird like cut right here. So, and getting it to line up back there is a little bit of a struggle. So it takes a little bit longer than normal, but it's not terrible. So I'm gonna get working on that, and yeah, see how far we get. All right, so I got the other one done. I got the bottom half of it welded. I'm gonna weld the top once I pull the motor out, but I'm gonna pull the motor out and then put the transmission on the motor and put it in that way. I know I'm probably gonna have to trim some of the tunnel just because of where the motor's sitting. It's a lot higher than a stock location. Actually, it's not higher. The rear ride height is pretty low on this, so which basically brings whole back of the motor, you know, brings everything up. So transmission's sitting in a lot higher position versus stock. So probably have to trim out more of that, but at least I can get it up there and start seeing where it's gonna need trimmed. But that's probably what we'll be working with. All right, so transmission is in. Like I expected, I had to trim the firewall. It's a super rough cut right now. Because we're most likely gonna do the firewall bar that we did in Mike's car. Actually, we got the motor out, so it's kind of easy to see. It's gonna be just like that. So it'll give a place for the, I guess you could call it a double frame rail section. It's not a full double frame rail that would run all the way forward, but it is supported off the back and the front. This one is just 1-inch tubing. We may do 1.25 inches on the shop car, but I don't know. We we bent up 1-inch tubing, so that might be what it is. But kind of see how close everything is in here. Because the seat, we usually push the seat pretty far this way. If you can see that. We usually push it pretty far this way, but because of this shoulder restraint here, it's kicked further in. So, I mean, you can see how close this is going to be to make a, a tunnel that we can get these bolts out and, fit a 4-inch drive shaft in here. So, these cars are originally built with, I think Fox bodies are, I think it's like a 3/4 inch offset to the passenger side for the drivetrain. That's to give more room for the driver. But on these cars, we center it so it brings the transmission back into kind of into the driver compartment. I mean, you can see this is the stock pedal and this is the linkage. So it starts getting real tight in here real quick. We might have to, as much as I hate to say, we might have to move the seat over a tad just to give room for that drive shaft, but we'll just have to see. I really don't want to. I think it'll be fine. I just gotta watch, obviously, because I mean it's starting to get tight in there. You think you have a ton of room until you don't. It gets real tight real quick on these cars, so makes it a little difficult to fab stuff just because there's space constraints that you gotta take into account. So I'm gonna get the transmission mounted because that's gonna stay. The seat's really the only thing that might move. Transmission and motor where they are. So I'm gonna get the transmission mount in there and then make a mount for it. So I'll keep you guys updated. All right. So I wanted to show you guys what it looks like before we weld the 4-bolt flanges in. I got the transmission cross member set, and then I went ahead and welded it in. And then we just take a reference point, pick something. So I went over, I think I measured from here, went over 4.5 inches, and then I just cut this. One thing you got to watch out for when you cut, so that bar is kind of a odd fit. Anytime you have two bars that are next to each other, I'm taking the gloves off, like these are, and it's there's no spreading out the cage. You got to tap in. You got to tap it in. So you'll kind of get it set like this up top, and then it'll rock in as you tap it along, which is why these marks are here. So when you go and cut it, because if you have it fit where it's still kind of has pressure on it when it's sitting there, when you go and cut it, that the width of the saw blade, and you go and cut straight through it, it's either going to grab your saw blade, or you're not going to be able to get your bandsaw. If you got like a portable bandsaw, you're not going to be able to get your portable bandsaw blade out because it'll be stuck on there. So usually I cut with a cutoff wheel probably 3/4 of the way around, and then I work it with a small that one. I work it with a small cutoff wheel to get the back side, and then usually once it pops, then you can cut the other side. Just something to watch out for, because you can catch your saw blade or your catch your cutoff wheel, sorry, and it can lead to bad things. So just watch for that. But that's pretty much what it looks like before we put it in. And then I just sorry for the mess over here. I just tacked these on. I'm gonna try to get away with leaving this one on and just sliding this on the other end. I guess we can see if we can do it. I don't know if this is gonna work, and I don't know if there's enough gap on this or not. So I'll slide that on, and then nope, not gonna work how I wanted. So I'm gonna take this other piece off, and then we will get it on there, get those 4-bolt flanges tacked, weld a little bit of it, and then work on making a transmission mount up to that polyurethane mount.